My estranged sister tried to steal my lottery winnings, but my grandparents' lawyer had other plans. My story begins a little over a year ago, when my life took an unexpected turn that most people only dream of. I, a seemingly ordinary 29-year-old working a respectable but ultimately uninspiring job in accounting, hit the lottery. Not a small, life-improving sum, but a truly life-altering, generational wealth kind of win. We are talking several $100 million after taxes. The kind of money that makes you question everything, from your career choices to your oldest friendships. Now, before I delve into the drama, a bit of background on my family. I have an older sister, Sarah, who is 32. Our relationship has always been strained, to put it mildly. Sarah was, to our parents, the golden child. From a young age, she was showered with attention, praise, and opportunities that were never extended to me. If I got a B, it was a disappointment. If Sarah got a B, it was a sign of her immense intellectual potential and evidence that the teacher was clearly biased. This favoritism wasn't subtle. It was blatant, hurtful, and a constant source of tension in our home. I often felt invisible, or worse, like a perpetual letdown. I learned early on not to expect much support or empathy from my parents when it came to Sarah. Their mantra was always, "She's just a little sensitive," or "You know how autistic she is, she just sees the world differently," whenever Sarah acted out or was outright cruel. This dynamic continued well into our adulthood. Sarah bounced from one failed venture to another, always relying on our parents to bail her out. Art school tuition, rent for her studio apartment, which was really just a glorified living room she painted in, funding for her boutique that sold overpriced, poorly made jewelry. You name it, our parents funded it. Meanwhile, I worked my way through college with scholarships and student loans, meticulously saving and budgeting, always preparing for a future I knew I had to build entirely on my own. I never asked my parents for a dime after I turned 18, and they never offered. My relationship with Sarah deteriorated completely about 5 years ago. It was during a family vacation, one of the rare times our parents insisted we all be together. Sarah, in a fit of drunken anger over some perceived slight, I honestly can't even recall what it was now, it was so trivial, publicly humiliated me at a resort dinner. She brought up old insecurities, mocked my career choice as boring and soulless, and implied I was a shallow, uncreative person. My parents, predictably, did nothing. They just sat there, uncomfortable, but unwilling to intervene. That night, I packed my bags and left the resort early, paying for my own flight home. From that day on, I severely limited contact with Sarah and our parents. I've seen them for holidays, usually just a quick dinner, but always with a polite excuse to leave early. I stopped answering Sarah's calls and texts altogether. It was a painful decision, but it brought me an immense sense of peace. Now, back to the lottery win. I was, understandably, in shock. For weeks, I didn't tell a soul. I consulted with lawyers, financial advisors, and discreetly set up trusts and investment portfolios. My biggest fear was that this incredible stroke of luck would expose me to the very family dynamics I had worked so hard to escape. I knew Sarah, and I knew my parents. The moment they found out, it would be a feeding frenzy. So, I kept it under wraps. I continued working for a few months, just to maintain a sense of normalcy, before quietly resigning with a vague explanation about pursuing other opportunities. My grandparents, on my mother's side, were the only family members I truly cherished. They had always been a source of unwavering love and support, seeing past the favoritism and treating me with kindness and respect. They were aware of the strained relationship with my parents and Sarah, though I never delved into the specifics to spare them the heartache. They passed away peacefully within months of each other about 2 years before my lottery win. Their passing was devastating, but they left behind a legacy of love and wisdom. What I didn't know at the time was that they had also left behind a meticulously planned financial legacy, specifically designed to protect me from the very machinations of my parents and Sarah. It was about 6 months after my lottery win that the news finally leaked. How? I'm still not entirely sure. My best guess is that someone at my old workplace, where I had confided in a very close friend, who I trusted implicitly, and still do, might have let it slip in an innocent moment. Or perhaps, one of the financial advisors I initially consulted mentioned it to someone outside the bounds of their non-disclosure agreement. Regardless, the cat was out of the bag. The first call I received was from my mother. Her tone was saccharine sweet, full of feigned concern about my sudden career change and how she always knew I was destined for greatness. I played along for a bit, feigning ignorance about the lottery, but she quickly cut to the chase. "Darling," she purred, "we heard the most delightful rumor. Is it true about your good fortune?" I admitted it was true, but kept the details vague. The pleasantries vanished instantly. "Well, that's just wonderful," she exclaimed, a little too loudly. "You know, your father and I have been so worried about Sarah. Her latest artistic endeavor, it's just not taking off the way she hoped. She's been so stressed." The implication was clear. I, the newly wealthy daughter, was expected to ride in and save the day. I politely but firmly told her that my finances were my own business and that I had no intention of discussing them. She grew visibly agitated, her voice rising. "But your family, and Sarah needs help. She's your sister." I reiterated my stance and ended the call, my heart sinking with the familiar dread. The calls and texts started immediately. First from Sarah, then from my father, then a barrage from various extended family members I hadn't spoken to in years, all suddenly brimming with love and concern. Sarah's messages were a particularly nasty blend of entitlement and victimhood. She accused me of being selfish, of forgetting my family, and of hoarding wealth that rightfully belonged to everyone. She even went so far as to say that because she was the artist in the family, the money would be better utilized funding her creative genius, which would, she claimed, bring honor to our family name. The audacity was breathtaking. One evening, about a week after the news broke, I received a certified letter. It was from a law firm I didn't recognize, informing me of an urgent matter regarding my late grandparents' estate. My heart hammered. Had something gone wrong? Had there been an issue with the inheritance I had received from them, which was a modest but meaningful sum that had helped me with a down payment on my first apartment years ago? I immediately called the number provided. The lawyer, a stern but kind-sounding woman named Ms. Davies, informed me that my grandparents had established a specific trust, which was now set to be activated. They foresaw certain family dynamics, shall we say, Ms. Davies explained delicately, and took steps to ensure your financial security and autonomy. She then revealed the full extent of my grandparents' foresight years before their passing, knowing the dysfunctional family dynamic and their concerns about how my parents and Sarah might treat me. My grandparents had created a unique legal structure. They had quietly purchased a significant stake in a highly successful, privately held tech company, one that had since become a major player in its industry. This investment had grown exponentially over the years, far beyond their initial expectations, and they had explicitly stipulated that, upon their passing, a substantial portion of this asset, along with a number of income-generating properties they owned, would be placed into an irrevocable trust for my sole benefit. But here was the kicker. The trust was structured to be publicly disclosed only if certain conditions were met. One of those conditions was demonstrable evidence of undue influence or attempts to appropriate assets from the beneficiary by immediate family members. My lottery win and the subsequent onslaught from my family had triggered this very condition. My grandparents, with incredible foresight, had essentially set a trap. They knew my family's tendencies, and they had prepared for it. Ms. Davies explained that the trust held assets worth far more than my lottery winnings. We are talking billions. Yes, billions with a B. My grandparents, independently wealthy but always discreet, had been far richer than anyone in our family, including my parents, had ever realized. They had lived modestly, enjoying their wealth without ostentation, and quietly built an empire, all while watching the way my parents treated Sarah and me. This trust was their final, magnificent act of love and protection for me. The next family gathering was Thanksgiving, and it was a disaster waiting to happen. My parents, despite our estrangement, insisted I attend, threatening to disown me if I didn't. I decided to go, partly out of a morbid curiosity, and partly because Ms. Davies advised me that it might be a good opportunity to observe their behavior before the public disclosure of the trust. She also suggested I bring a discreet recording device, purely for legal documentation, should things escalate. I went, armed with my phone's voice recorder and a sense of resigned anticipation. The moment I walked in, I was met with icy stares from my parents and Sarah. The air was thick with unspoken resentment. My parents had clearly been priming Sarah. Throughout dinner, Sarah made thinly veiled remarks about people who forget their roots and the importance of sharing with those less fortunate, especially family. My mother kept sighing dramatically, lamenting Sarah's struggles and how unfair life could be. My father, usually stoic, kept shooting me accusatory glances. Finally, after dessert, Sarah launched her attack. "So," she began, her voice dripping with faux concern, "we've all heard about your sudden wealth, and it's truly wonderful for you. But you know, with great wealth comes great responsibility, and family should always come first." She then launched into a tirade, recounting all her hardships, her unrecognized artistic genius, and how unfairly life had treated her. She then pivoted, asserting that because I had always been a practical one, I wouldn't truly appreciate or know how to properly manage such a vast sum. "Frankly," she declared, puffing out her chest, "I think it's only right that a significant portion of your winnings goes to me. I'm the one who will use it to elevate our family name, to create something lasting and beautiful. You'll just squander it on boring investments." My parents nodded emphatically, chiming in with their own arguments about fairness and family obligation. My father even added, "Your grandparents would have wanted you to help your sister. They always said family looks out for family." The irony of him invoking my grandparents' name, given their true intentions, was almost comical that I let them talk, calmly sipping my tea, recording every word. When they finally paused, breathless from their self-righteous indignation, I put down my cup. "You know," I said, my voice steady, "it's interesting you bring up our grandparents." I then pulled out the certified letter from my bag. "I received this a few weeks ago." My parents exchanged confused glances, and Sarah looked genuinely puzzled. "What's that?" my mother asked, her tone wary. "It's from my grandparents' estate lawyer," I replied, holding up the letter. "It seems they had some very specific instructions for after their passing, particularly regarding me." I then explained, in broad strokes, about the trust and its contingency clause. I didn't reveal the exact figures, just that it contained significant assets and that it was designed to protect me from undue influence. I also mentioned that the activation of the trust was contingent on attempts by immediate family members to appropriate assets. The color drained from their faces. Sarah looked utterly stunned, her mouth agape. My parents exchanged a horrified look. My mother stammered, "What are you talking about? Your grandparents loved all of us." They did, I agreed, but they also knew our family dynamics very well, and they wanted to ensure I would be secure, no matter what. I then calmly stated, "And given the nature of our conversation tonight, and the explicit demands you've all made regarding my lottery winnings, I believe the conditions for the full public disclosure and activation of this trust have now been met." My father, finally finding his voice, sputtered, "This is ridiculous. This is some trick. They wouldn't have done this." "Oh, but they did," I said, a small, sad smile playing on my lips. "And the lawyer will be making an official public announcement early next week. You'll all receive formal notification." The rest of the evening was a blur of accusations, denials, and desperate attempts to backtrack. Sarah, realizing the depth of her miscalculation, tried to play the victim, claiming she was misunderstood and only wanted what was best for me. My parents tried to deny they had ever demanded anything, accusing me of twisting their words. But I had the recording, and I had the lawyer. The following week, true to Ms. Davis' word, the news broke. The scale of my grandparents' wealth, and their incredibly clever, protective trust became public knowledge. The articles were discreet, mostly focusing on the philanthropic nature of the trust and its beneficiaries, but the financial community was abuzz. My parents and Sarah were utterly humiliated. Not only did they fail to extort my lottery winnings, but they also learned, in the most public way possible, that their own parents or in-laws had taken extraordinary measures to protect me from them. The irony was palpable. The fallout was immediate and severe. My parents were ostracized within their social circles. Their attempts to paint themselves as loving, supportive parents who were misunderstood fell flat in the face of the public record of the trust stipulations. Sarah, whose carefully cultivated image as a struggling artist with a demanding, unsupportive family, was shattered. No one in their right mind would fund her art now, knowing she had tried to leverage her sister's lottery win, only to be exposed as trying to exploit her sister for billions. My phone, which had been constantly ringing with demands, went silent. A few weeks later, I received an email from my mother, a long, rambling apology that was clearly written more out of desperation than genuine remorse. She begged me to reconsider, to think of the family, and to keep the trust details private. I didn't respond. I haven't spoken to any of them since Thanksgiving, though I've used my lottery winnings to establish several philanthropic foundations, invest wisely, and finally buy the secluded, peaceful home I've always dreamed of. The money from my grandparents' trust is managed by an independent board, per their instructions, with a significant portion dedicated to educational scholarships and environmental conservation, causes I know they deeply cared about. I receive a comfortable income from it, enough to live a life of complete freedom and purpose, far beyond anything I ever imagined. That it's been a strange journey. I went from being the overlooked daughter, constantly battling for recognition, to being a multi-billionaire, all while my dysfunctional family watched their carefully constructed illusions crumble. Sometimes, I still can't believe it. But then I remember my grandparents and their quiet, unwavering love. They saw through the facade, they understood the dynamics, and they made sure, in the most spectacular way possible, that I would always be protected. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. It's a bittersweet victory, knowing that it took such a public unveiling for my family to finally realize the consequences of their actions, but it's a victory nonetheless. The peace I feel now, knowing I am truly free from their influence and manipulations, is priceless.